Two lives lost in the same house just days apart, one a young boy, the other his caregiver. The circumstances were shocking, mysterious, and still spark debate to this day. Was it accident, suicide, or something far more sinister? Welcome to Whispers of the Taken, where every mystery is a voice lost in the shadows. This video is based on public information and falls under fair use. Like, subscribe, and comment. Even the quietest voice can echo the loudest truth. A mansion full of secrets. In the summer of 2011, the historic Spreckels Mansion in Coronado, California, became the stage for one of the most baffling and controversial tragedies in modern American true crime. Behind the towering white walls and oceanfront views, two lives were cut short in the span of just 3 days. 6-year-old Max Shacknai, the son of a wealthy pharmaceutical tycoon, and 32-year-old Rebecca Zahau, the girlfriend of that same tycoon. Their deaths, one an accident, the other declared a suicide, would ignite a storm of speculation, lawsuits, and accusations that remain unresolved more than a decade later. At first glance, the events seem like a nightmare strung together by cruel coincidence. A boy falls fatally from a staircase banister. Days later, a young woman is found hanging naked from a balcony, hands and feet bound, a cryptic message painted nearby. Authorities closed the case as a tragic accident followed by a grief-driven suicide. But for many, including Zahau's family and a wide swath of the public, the official version of events has never satisfied. Instead, they see a tale of power, secrecy, and perhaps murder, staged behind the gates of a mansion once built by a sugar baron, now marred by suspicion. Part 1. Max Shacknai, Maxfield. Max Aaron Shacknai was born on June 7, 2005, in Paradise Valley, Arizona, to Jonah Shacknai and Dina Romano. His father was a successful pharmaceutical executive, and his mother worked as a clinical psychologist, giving Max a home environment rooted in both structure and care. Though his parents were separated, Max grew up embraced by both sides of his family, dividing his time between Arizona and his father's summer home in Coronado, California. He was not an only child. Max shared his early years with his siblings, Gabriele and Ethan, forming bonds that reflected both friendship and family love. Those close to him described him as affectionate, gentle, and filled with an energy that made him a bright presence wherever he went. From an early age, Max displayed a playful spirit and a natural curiosity about the world around him. He was an active little boy who thrived in sports, particularly soccer, where his enthusiasm and determination stood out. His involvement in youth leagues not only allowed him to build his athletic skills, but also gave him a strong sense of teamwork and camaraderie with his peers. Outside of structured activities, he enjoyed the simple joys of childhood, playing with friends, exploring his surroundings, and sharing laughs with his siblings. Family members and friends remembered him as a child who was thoughtful beyond his years, full of kindness, and eager to make others smile. Although his life was brief, Max lived his early years with joy, curiosity, and a remarkable presence that left a lasting impression on all who knew him. At just 6 years old, he embodied the innocence and vitality of childhood, bringing warmth and happiness into every space he entered. His personality and hobbies reflected a boy who was both adventurous and deeply loving, qualities that his family would later honor through foundations dedicated to helping other children. Max's early life, though short, was rich in love, activity, and promise, making his memory cherished by all who had the privilege of knowing him. Part 2. Rebecca Zahau. Rebecca Mawie Zahau, née Nalepa, was born on March 15, 1979, in Phalam, a town in the Chin Hills of Myanmar, formerly Burma. She was one of 6 children in a Chin ethnic family and was raised in a Protestant Christian household. From an early age, Rebecca's life was marked by upheaval as her family fled political unrest in Myanmar when she was just 2 years old. They spent several years moving between Nepal and Germany before eventually settling in the United States in the early 2000s. Once in the United States, Rebecca and her family established themselves in St. Joseph, Missouri. Growing up in a multicultural environment, she became multilingual, speaking English, Nepali, and Hindi. Her upbringing across several countries gave her a broad worldview and a sense of adaptability that would carry into her later life. Her family maintained close ties, and she grew up surrounded by her siblings and extended family in a supportive household. Rebecca pursued a professional path as a certified ophthalmic technician in Arizona, demonstrating her ambition and dedication from a young age. Her early experiences, navigating life across multiple countries, learning languages, and integrating into new communities, shaped her resilience and her capacity to connect with people from diverse backgrounds. These formative years laid the foundation for the person she would become in her adult life. Part 3. The Fall of Max Shacknai. On the morning of July 11, 2011, the opulent Spreckels Mansion was unusually quiet. Inside, 6-year-old Max Shacknai, a lively boy with boundless energy, played under the watchful eyes of his father's girlfriend, Rebecca Zahau, and her 13-year-old sister, Zena. Max was the kind of child who filled a room with life, curious, adventurous, and often seen zipping along the mansion's cavernous hallways on his little scooter. The grand, echoing space that once served as a playground of luxury for generations suddenly became, for Max, a dangerous landscape. At some point that morning, in a sequence of events that has never been fully clarified, tragedy struck. Investigators believe Max tumbled over the second-story banister that overlooked the mansion's marble-floored entryway. The fall was horrific. Reports suggest he may have tried to hold on to a chandelier during the plunge, an image that only adds to the surreal horror of what happened in those few seconds. Rebecca, alerted by the sound of the crash, rushed to the scene and found Max lying motionless on the floor. Panic set in. In the frantic 911 call that followed, Rebecca's voice wavered as she tried to describe what had happened, her words tumbling over one another while paramedics raced toward Coronado Island. Max was rushed to Ready Children's Hospital in San Diego, where doctors quickly realized the severity of his injuries. The list of trauma was devastating: catastrophic spinal cord damage, multiple fractures to his facial bones, and irreversible brain injury from prolonged oxygen deprivation. At first, physicians clung to cautious hope. Children are resilient, and miracles sometimes happen. But with each passing hour, Max's prognosis grew grimmer. Machines kept him alive, but by July 16th, only 5 days after the fall, Max was pronounced dead. The official ruling labeled the incident a tragic accident, a child's fall in a house never designed with safety rails for play. But from the moment the details were released, whispers of doubt began to spread. Forensic specialists later questioned whether Max's constellation of injuries truly aligned with a simple fall from the banister. Some pointed to the chandelier as evidence of an attempted grab, or perhaps a clue to something more complicated. Others wondered about the timing of Rebecca's supervision and how quickly she reached him after the fall. Her actions, while consistent with a panicked caregiver, would later be dissected by investigators and critics alike. No evidence has ever surfaced to suggest foul play in Max's death, and authorities have stood by their conclusion: it was an accident, as sudden as it was devastating. Still, the unanswered questions cast long shadows over the case. Was it really just a freak fall, a cruel twist of fate in a house built for grandeur but not for children? Or was there more to the story, hidden behind the walls of that sprawling mansion by the sea? Part 4. The morning of July 13th. 2 days after Max's devastating fall, the Spreckels Mansion became the stage for an even darker nightmare. At dawn on July 13th, 2011, the grand house stood in eerie silence, its white facade catching the first blush of morning light. Inside, Adam Shacknai, Jonah's younger brother, who had flown in from Tennessee to be with the family in their time of crisis, awoke to a scene that would sear itself into true crime history. Around 6:45 a.m., Adam reported discovering the body of 32-year-old Rebecca Zahau. What he found was almost impossible to comprehend. Rebecca was hanging from the second-floor balcony, her body fully nude, swaying in the ocean breeze. A long, orange nylon rope stretched taut from the balcony railing to a heavy bed frame inside the adjoining bedroom, serving as a crude anchor for the ligature around her neck. The details were grotesque and chilling. A red t-shirt had been forced into Rebecca's mouth, the sleeves tied around her head to form a gag. Her wrists were bound tightly behind her back, also with orange rope. Her ankles, too, had been lashed together. The entire tableau seemed designed not just to kill, but to shock. It was a scene so elaborate, so theatrical, that it instantly raised questions. Could someone truly bind themselves in such a way and then commit suicide? Or had Rebecca been staged to appear that way after death? Adam immediately dialed 911 at 6:48 a.m., his voice strained as he explained that he had found his brother's girlfriend hanging outside the mansion. While still on the line with dispatchers, he dragged a patio table toward the body, pulled her down, and attempted CPR. By the time authorities arrived, however, it was far too late. Rebecca was pronounced dead at the scene. But the horror did not end with her discovery. On the bedroom door leading to the balcony, investigators found a cryptic message scrawled in black paint. "She saved him. Can you save her?" The words dripped with ambiguity. Who had written them? What did they mean? Was it a taunt directed at Max Shacknai, grieving his son's catastrophic accident? A cry for help? Or a planted clue meant to confuse investigators? When the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office conducted an autopsy, the official ruling came quickly: suicide by hanging. The medical examiner concluded that Rebecca, consumed by guilt over Max's accident, had tied herself, gagged herself, and leapt from the balcony. The bizarre bindings, authorities said, could be explained by so-called suicidal staging, an effort to dramatize her death. Yet the conclusion only deepened the mystery. Suicide in such a humiliating, ritualistic fashion, naked, gagged, and bound, was virtually unheard of. Forensic pathologists unaffiliated with the case later argued that the bindings were inconsistent with self-application and that the presence of the gag suggested control by another party. To Rebecca's family and to many who followed the case, the official findings seemed less like closure and more like a rush to protect reputations. The questions multiplied. Why would a woman intending to kill herself strip naked? How could she have tied her own wrist behind her back with such precision? And who, if not Rebecca, scrawled that haunting black message on the door? Instead of resolving the grief inside the mansion, Rebecca's death split the story wide open, turning the Spreckels estate into a crime scene dripping with suspicion, unanswered questions, and whispers of a cover-up. Max Shacknai's death was officially ruled accidental, caused by a fall that led to severe head injuries. Authorities determined that there was no evidence of neglect or intentional harm in Max's case. Nevertheless, the combination of the two deaths in one household drew intense media coverage and led to public speculation about potential links between the tragedies. Some questioned whether the stress of Max's accident may have contributed to Rebecca's mental state, while others suggested alternative scenarios involving third-party involvement. Lawsuits and legal proceedings in the years following the deaths further fueled public interest and controversy. In the aftermath of these tragedies, both investigations highlighted the challenges of determining intent and cause of death in complex situations. While the official findings were that Max's death was accidental and Rebecca's was a suicide, debate continues among experts, family members, and the public. The case remains a topic of ongoing interest due to the unusual circumstances, high-profile family connections, and the lingering questions about what truly happened in the days leading up to and following the deaths of Max Shacknai and Rebecca Zahau. Part 6. Years pass. Years have passed since the deaths of Max Shacknai and Rebecca Zahau, yet the questions remain. While authorities ruled Max's death an accident and Rebecca's a suicide, many still wonder if the official story tells the whole truth. The strange circumstances, the bindings, the head injuries, the timing, leave room for doubt, and the mystery refuses to fade. Legal battles and family disputes added layers of intrigue, keeping the story in the public eye and fueling speculation. Settlements and court proceedings offered some answers, but they never fully satisfied those searching for the truth. The case became more than a tragedy. It became a puzzle that haunted everyone connected to it. For friends and family, the emotional toll was immense. Losing two loved ones so suddenly under such bizarre and troubling circumstances left wounds that could never fully heal. The media attention only intensified the grief, making closure feel even further away. In the end, the story of Max and Rebecca remains a haunting chapter in Coronado's history. Official conclusions may exist, but the lingering questions, the controversies, and the unexplained details continue to captivate the public imagination. Some mysteries, it seems, may never be solved, and their story is one that will not be forgotten.